Good morning, Johnny. I already shaved today, so I'm just going to do some morning thoughts from Stepdad today. And I got a story I want to tell you. My throat's a little dry, so I might have to clear my throat once or twice. But when I was growing up, my grandma used to spend time with us. Because my parents are divorced, my mom's mom would come to our house and spend time with us. And often we would go to her house. And she lived in this farming town, small town, had a nice house on a farm plot, and then they had land outside of the farm too in the area that they would farm. Well, if you can imagine, farming takes a lot of work. Well, Grandma used to encourage us to work. And as a kid, I didn't like to work, right? I tried to avoid it. And I think I've already told that story of mowing her lawn in one of the previous videos, but often, even when she would visit us, she would convey to us that we weren't working hard enough. Sometimes she'd call us lazy. One thing that I learned from that is that my value as a person depended, at least in her eyes, on whether I was working or not, whether I was doing as much as I could do or not. And if I didn't, if I was lazy, I wasn't worth as much. Well, if you couple that with the thought or the idea as you may be growing up without a good positive relationship with your dad, and he's not there, if you're like me, you might be asking yourself, well, you know, is there something wrong with me that my dad would leave me? How could my dad do that? What's wrong with me? Well, you take those two thoughts and put them together, and that's the potential for a real problem for the rest of your life if you don't address them. And that's why I want to bring those up, and that's why I want you to understand one thing. This is really key that you understand. Your worth and your value as a human being, as a person, as an individual, do not depend on whether you work hard or not. That value doesn't depend on whether your dad is in your life or not. It doesn't depend on whether you get good grades or not. Your worth and your value are tremendous, and they are there. It is there just because you are there. It's like gravity. Gravity exists because the earth is here. The earth has an attractive force to it because it's a big body. That is the same thing as your worth. It is there because you are there. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter what you say, your worth is there. Think of it this way. If I had a brand new gaming system, a PS5, let's say, I know maybe you can start to get that now. I know back at Christmas time this year, you couldn't even get it because everyone wants it, right? If I had, imagine I have a box, a PS5, brand new gaming system in a box right here. Put it on my desk. Does that gaming system have value? It does, right? It does today, maybe in 10 years not, but it has value. If I take it out of the box and use it, or if I leave it in the box and let it sit on the desk, does it matter? Either way, does it still have value? It has value, right? Now, I can leave it in the box, I can put it on the shelf, I can do nothing with it, but it would still have value. If I wanted, I could sell it, probably scalp it, for higher than the retail price. Unless they're available on the shelves, and you can't do that. But it has value because it's there. Well, you have value because you're there. Now, I can take it out, I can use it, I can be excited about it, or I can leave it sitting on a shelf and do nothing with it. That's like your value, too. I want you to understand that. It's important. Let me tell you one more story. My grandma was staying at our house once, and she was older in life. I mean, she was a good woman. I loved doing things with her. I loved going to her house. But she saw her value the same way she taught us to see our value, or at least me to see my value, in the value of my work. Well, what happens if you can't do good work? What happens if you don't get good grades? What happens if you tie your value as a human being to the approval of your friends, or your mom, or your teachers, and you suddenly don't get that? Well, then you feel like you've got to do something different to get their approval, or you don't have value. My grandma, she had some kind of an illness. It required surgery, and she was staying at our house to recover. And I'm walking down the hall, and the door's open to the bedroom she's in. It was my mom's bedroom, and she was lying in her bed. And probably the only time I've ever seen my grandma cry was then. And I walked by, and I'd never seen that. So I went in to see what was wrong. Well, Grandma tied her value as a human being to her ability to work, just like she was conveying to us. Well, guess what? When she was injured, when she'd had surgery, when she was recovering, she couldn't work. So how did she feel about herself? She felt like she was of less worth. Well, was she any less worth? No. No, she wasn't. Her worth and her value existed because she existed, just like you. So Peter and Carl and Haha Throwaway and everyone else that's watching these videos, whether you're watching them now or watching them in the future, this is an important lesson I want you to learn. Your value and your worth exist because you exist. Not because your dad's there or he's not there. Not because your friends like you or they don't like you. It exists, and it always will as long as you exist. And as soon as you can understand that, it's going to help you feel better about yourself. It's also going to help you do better things just because you're going to understand that principle. All right, it doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean you're going to do things that you regret, because you will. That's part of being human. But your value doesn't go away because you screw up, make mistakes. Even if you start doing things that are bad, that you later regret, all along, whether you're doing good things, bad things, your value and your worth exist. Pretty profound lesson. Important for you to understand, especially if you're growing up without your dad and you're worrying about yourself as a result of that. So I hope this message sinks in. All right? Don't forget the 2 lessons from every video. You can succeed even though your dad's not in your daily life. And always remember your stepdad loves you. I'll see you on the next video.